6, kind of a classic cover there, of which, so it's kind of a weird situation. So Alex Ross was doing covers of all of the... Hi, I'm Glenn Simpson, and I've collected comics for over 40 years, and I'm showing off my collection one box at a time. Today we're looking at box number 88. We are doing Iron Man. We're going to pick up with the Iron Man Volume 2, and we will make our way all the way through some one-shots and get caught up on the main series, and then get through some one-shots and things like that. So it is all Iron Man all the time today. I'm so glad you're here. Please like and comment and subscribe. If there's anything inside any of these packs that you'd like to see, please let me know. But in the meantime, let's get going on box 88. All right, so picking up where we left off on the last video. So we finished up with Iron Man Volume 1 last time, so now we are getting into Iron Man Volume 2, as I mentioned there somewhere. So the Wildstorm studio was given the rights to do Avengers and Fantastic Four and some stuff like that, in hopes that they could boost sales on the books. So this was the first issue of their Iron Man. Scott Lobdell writing, Jim Lee, Will Spartacio, Scott Williams. So kind of a new view of almost like an early version of Ultimate Iron Man and whatnot. So that's issue 1. Issue 2, new Iron Man. And the weird thing was there was a Hulk in both places. They did not, like in for the most of these characters, they disappeared in the old universe and were just appearing here. But there was a Hulk going on in both, and I don't know the story behind that, but if that was intentional or just some rights issues or how that worked. But issue 2 through issue 4, I think this is a variant of issue 4 there that I somehow ended up with. Issue 5, there you go. And issue 8. Issue 9. Jeff Loeb has come on to write. Ryan Benjamin is doing art. So that Team Supreme, that those big names that had started off had moved on. Issue 9 through issue 13. It's the last issue of that series, and it is going to be very difficult to ever get reprinted because it has these Marvel heroes teaming up with the Wildstorm heroes for this World War III storyline. And of course, Wildstorm is now owned by DC, so don't know how that would require some figuring. But we've got James Robinson and Larry Stroman. I mean, the art chores, the writing and the artists and all this stuff just were all over the place. But they gave it a year. It didn't work out, so they brought it back to Marvel, and Marvel took it back over. Now, the next Iron Man series had a Wizard 1/2 with the Joe Quesada cover here. Right there, looking good. course, the regular first issue of that, written by Kurt Busiek, who would go on to write the fabulous Avengers series, and with George Perez, and he would write JLA Avengers, and has just been a general great writer. Sean Chen, who would go on to, I believe he's the one who did Superman Earth 1 and some other things, but there you go. Heroes Return, issue 1, issue 4. There, Sean Chen, Sean Parsons. Is everybody named Sean? Or am I misremembering somebody's name? Ugh, that's possible. Issue 5. Still fighting that Firebrand character. Issue 8. There. Identity compromised. Issue 9. Bringing back the Mandarin for a fight. Issue 12, we've got Carol Danvers as Warbird, which was her. So first she was Ms. Marvel, and then she quit as Ms. Marvel, spent a little time as Binary, and then when she kind of came back and got her powers, she wound up going with Warbird. There. Fighting the controller again. Once again, the controller cracks me up because he controls people's minds, but he's also huge. Just always struck me as funny. Usually mind controlling people are just kind of small and squirrely. 16. Lizards. Lots of lizards. Got Roger Stern, Patrick Zurcher on art and writing. Iron Man up against Fin Fang Foom. Classic Marvel monster. 21. 8th Day crossover. Kind of a had something to do with the Juggernaut and some other figures who were similar to the Juggernaut. They were, avatars of these mystical gods and things. There. Apparently, whereas Juggernaut is like strength, she's fire, something like that. Uh, 22. When fighting mystical god things, bring in your pal Thor. Always a good idea. There. 26. Joe Quesada coming in to write on Sean Chen's book. Quesada doing, I guess that's him doing the cover. Uh, 27. Tony Stark having another bout with his alcoholism. And I don't remember offhand if this was like a long-term thing or just a one-time, oops, I messed up kind of thing. But 27. 32. Quesada still writing. Martinez. Art. 32. There. $40. Is that Steve Lytle, I believe, doing that cover? If I recognize that properly. Got 41, Frank Thierry, Kieran Grant, Rob Stoll, Iron Man, don't remember his name. 48, the Udon Studio, kind of Ultron and Iron Man merging as part of the story. Alright, 49, Frank Thierry, Chris Batista, Iron Man coming in for a re-entry there. Enough said. Issue. That means there was no dialogue. You just had to kind of figure it out from the pictures. For one issue. 59. 52. Mike Grell, classic writer and artist, known for his time creating and writing Warlord and Green Arrow. Well, writing and creating Warlord, and then just writing and drawing Green Arrow over at DC. Comes over to Marvel and does some just writing on, although the occasional cover maybe, on Iron Man over here. So issue 52 is an example of that. Issue 53. I think this is the son of the Mandarin trying to, avoid his destiny or whatever. 56. So I think we are solidly into everybody knows Tony Stark is Iron Man at this point. The movie's just completely ignored that whole concept of people not knowing that thinking that Iron Man is somebody that's works for Tony Stark, but in the comics they actually hung on to the secret identity thing for a very long time until right about this point. About 401 issues in. Right there. $57. I think that's figurative. I can't remember. Anyway. There. $60. See, now we're getting some Grell covers. Mike Grell sending Iron Man into the past again to deal with some knights and armor and stuff and things like that. $61. Yeah, it just says by Mike Grell, so yeah, he's doing the whole darn thing. 64, we're back to he's just writing. We got this 3-part standoff series. There. By Thor. 65. Manhunt. So New armor. Might have worked, rather. I guess this new armor may have been, this is the armor that Grell started with. 68. Continuing that manhunt storyline. 69. Finishing up the manhunt storyline. I don't remember what the manhunt storyline was about. But we got Laws doing the writing. Wait. Yeah, Grell started the Grell and Laws. Okay. So Grell just phased out. He didn't just drop it. 75. John Jackson Miller. Jorge Lucas. Best Defense. 76. Kind of a classic cover. There. '77. There. 82. There, yeah, this period was big on just these beauty covers that don't tell you anything about what's going on inside. 83. I can't give you any tidbits, so I need a little prompting. And 89, so over on Avengers, they were doing Avengers Disassembled, and so Captain America and Thor and Iron Man here we're also doing disassembled kinds of storylines, indicating that they were all kind of moving towards some sort of change. 89, and that is the last issue of, that would be volume 3. That series had a few annuals. 1998, so as we've mentioned before, 1998 they did these annuals that were all like these team-up annuals, and they weren't so concrete, they weren't completely tied to one series, but usually they get filed, I file them under whoever is the first name on the billing there. So 1998 annual had Iron Man and Cap going up against MODOK. And we've got this 99 annual right there. The Purple Man? Maybe. Got 2000 annual. I don't know why it's a big boy book. And 2001, written by Chris Claremont. There. Alright, and that brings us to Volume 4. Volume 4, written by Warren Ellis, drawn by Adi Granov, starts with the Extremis storyline, which is what was heavily adapted into Iron Man 3. The idea of using technology to, instead of armoring up soldiers, to turn their bodies into weapons. You know, bullets made of bone. And in the movie, you know, they just kind of like turned red and got hot. Whereas there's a lot of grotesquerie here. Like literally they're shooting bullets out of the back of their hands or whatever, and that are made of bone, and it's kind of gross. But issue 1 of that also, these designs were the artwork of Adi Granov was used, I believe, as designs for the movie, the first movie, or is it the first movie? One of the movies. Issue 1, issue 4, here, and again, we're getting a lot of beauty covers that don't remind us much of what was going on. Issue 5, I believe this is the female character that we meet in Iron Man 3, the scientist that Tony knew in his past, female scientist. Through 8, moved on to another storyline. Nauf, Patrick Zurcher. Patrick Zurcher is kind of like Dan Jurgens. You can just bring him on. He's very reliable. Daniel Nauf, that's it. More of that storyline. So yeah, Tony Stark gets brought in. I don't remember where Nick Fury went. I think he was thought to be dead at the time or something. And Tony Stark is brought in as director of S.H.I.E.L.D. I think even though they put it on the book, I think the indicia, I can't remember what the indicia did. I think the indicia mostly stayed normal, except for like one annual, which I choose to ignore. So, but yes, Iron Man, director of S.H.I.E.L.D. Mandarin again, part of the initiative, rolling out of Civil War. '24, Jackson Geis. It's a beautiful cover. John Romita t-shirt there. See, the Iron Man movie's coming out in May. Oh wait, here, 32. I mean, this is just basically a series of Iron Man posters. You know, just still a director of S.H.I.E.L.D. Whatever all that's about. 33. This might be the one that had this is of course a Secret Invasion crossover. This may be the one that had the funny indicia, but I'm just like, no, we're not getting into any hijinks with that. Christos Gage, Sean Chen back. 35. There. And that was the end of that series. Then we get to, and they had an annual. There. So then we get to our next Iron Man series. Lost track of what volume we're on. That's okay. Kieron Gillen, Greg Land. Got this kind of blackish, darkish with the yellow color scheme there. Issue 1. Issue 4. There. Issue 5. Oops. Missing something there. Like the rest of his neck. Through 8. The God Killer. Part of coming out of, so this series was all very tied up in all of the big events at the time. Avengers versus X-Men. And we've got Iron Man building armor suitable for killing a god. Alright, then we get into this Iron Man 9, Secret Origin of Tony Stark. We find out that Tony is actually not the biological child of his parents, that they had another child, Arno, which was originally a name used for the Iron Man of 2020, but we were getting to 2020, so what was used to be a very much in the future story suddenly became a now story kind of thing. So anyway, Iron Man 9 here. 16, continuing this. I think it was something along the lines of, a menace was coming and Tony's not smart enough to defeat it, so he needs his equally brilliant brother to help him solve the problem. Issue 17. There. Issue 20. Mandarin's rings get floating around out there. Inhumanity, part of the Inhumans, the big push to have them replace mutants within the Marvel books. That didn't go very well. Iron Metropolitan in Iron Man 21. I think there was a storyline that was, well, this is still part of the Mandarin thing, so this is Tony and Arno, maybe at cross purposes, I forget. And this series ends with issue 28 there. And they had an annual right there. And we get to the next Iron Man series, which the first issue of which, so it's kind of a weird situation. So Alex Ross was doing covers of all of the issues of this series, but at the same time he did his timeless series of classic covers, or variant covers featuring classic versions of the characters. So that's what this is. So a lot of times variants don't necessarily match up with the book that they are on, but this one is pretty much on the nose. And of course, this also ironically debuts a new version of Iron Man's armor, but the cover has a very old version of his armor on the outside. So when we get to issue 2, we're seeing a little bit more. There's the A cover there. He's got more little lights. He's got more lights on him. That's the thing I take away from this armor. Issue 6. There. Christopher Cantwell, Cafu, the creative team. Got Rhodey getting some repairs made. There, issue 7. Issue 12. Go. you know, I used to think of Alex Ross as a very slow artist. And I mean, I know he's still just doing covers, but man, he does a lot of covers when he does them. 13. Going up against some various villains. Got Blizzard. Got the Hellcat coming in. So this is the series where Tony and Hellcat form a relationship. There. 18. There you go. Big, huge armor guy. I think this was also the one, what's his name? Korvac was the villain, kind of the godlike entity that was fought in the classic Avengers. And Iron Man has to take him on his own. Issue 19 here. There. Jump to issue 650, Legacy 25, Legacy 650. Some stories. Got a Kurt Busiek story in here, and that kind of thing. And that is the end of that series. And as kind of with the Hulk bouncing back and forth between Incredible Hulk and Hulk, these series are bouncing back and forth between Invincible Iron Man and Iron Man. So you can see my previous video that includes Invincible stuff. With that, we got a couple of annuals. Got this one. There's kind of took a pretty long time to get it done. This series of annuals with the Infinity Stones, finding people to reside with, and the stories that go along with that. Mentioned Tony and Patsy Walker, Hellcats, decide to form a relationship. Part of that last series, we got the Art Germ variant on that. Cool. Then we get to the modern, as of this recording, the most recent version of Iron Man. So this is the post-Krakoa X-Men stuff. Stark is it? Somebody tries to take over Stark while his company is weak for takeover, and so he goes to war with Roxxon. Which, okay, I did understand that one as a kid, that's their stand-in for Exxon. So, but if anybody else didn't pick up on that, which Exxon isn't quite so much a day-to-day thing anymore, I guess, but that's one of the biggest oil and gas or whatever companies. We used to talk about Exxon like people talk about Amazon now. Issue 1, hanging out with Ironheart. Tony's got this kind of magic infused armor with a big old sword there, and for a while there, Ironheart has the Mandarin rings, which is kind of interesting. And then it all gets wrapped up into the one world under Doom. Dr. Doom becomes the Sorcerer Supreme and uses it to take over the world, and is a dictator, but he's also doing good things, but he's not, and people are divided over whether to let him remain a dictator, and a lot of thought and a lot of issues around that. And Tony is trying to, it gets very twisty in here about whose side he's on. Is he whose side is he really on? And whose side is he pretending to be on? And funding dooms so that he can secretly fund the terrorists or the insurgents. And it's just kind of twisty, but issue 6 there. And that series, I believe, ends with issue 10. So as of this recording, we are waiting for the next Iron Man series to come out. That'll probably come out on the other side of the current X-Men shenanigans. They're doing the Iron and Frost series, which first issue of that is sitting on my desk somewhere, or my bedside table, waiting to be read. So now we get into various miniseries and things. We've got Iron Man Armor Wars. This is one of everyone for a while there. They were doing these miniseries that sort of were takeoffs of classic series. They weren't rewriting them. They were new stories for the most part. There was a Captain America and the Secret Wars or something like that. I don't have that one, but I did get this one in retrospect, Iron Man Armor Wars, and it's a different story. I think it's canon, all that good stuff, but just a different sort of armor war. Very similar to the various things they did during the second Secret Wars thing, where they would have different series with the same names as classic storylines or things, but not all tied together like that. Issue 4, that. I've got Iron Man, Bad Blood. It should be noted that, I don't think Iron Man would have had quite so many miniseries and one-shots if the first movie hadn't done so well in the MCU. But we've got a return of David Michelinie and Bob Layton to do a miniseries of Iron Man, issue 1 through 4. There. That's Iron Man Enter the Mandarin. Another fight with the Mandarin, using that sort of. He's in that. What would that be? Late 60s, early 70s armor with the pointy bits. Issue 1 through 6 of that. Iron Man Golden Avenger. Can't remember if this is movie continuity. It's certainly the movie, they did the photo cover, but I can't remember if this is movie continuity or regular continuity on that. Iron Man House of M, Greg Pak. So House of M, reality has shifted and mutants are in charge of everything, subjugating the humans. And what would Tony Stark's world be like in that situation? Issue 1 through issue 3 of that. We've got this preview kind of book. I don't know what the goal of this was. Iron Man, Incredible Hulk. Again, kind of a movie tie-in sort of thing right here. It's called Iron Man, Hulk, Nick Fury. I don't know. That's a standard cover. Then we also have Incredible Hulk Iron Man from MarvelKids.com. Not for resale, which means it might have come with a toy or something originally. I picked this up out of a dollar box at some point. Iron Man Hypervelocity. There. Adam Warren doing the writing on that. Issue 1 through issue 6. Iron Man, I Am Iron Man, issue 1. This, I believe, it does take place in the MCU. This is like literally takes place, I think, right after the end of issue of the first movie. Like, he's just said, I am Iron Man, as he does at the end of that movie, and then it's like, what happens after that? So that's issue 1 through issue 2 of that. Okay, got a shot of that. Iron Man The Inevitable. I forget the storyline on that one. Another mini-series. Iron Man. Fraser Irving, who I think of from the Seven Soldiers, Witch Boy. Through 6. There. Iron Man, Iron Protocols. One shot. Ariel Olivetti. There. And we have Iron Man Legacy, which ran for a while, and it at least the first issue was, took place in the past. Got this variant cover, and I think it was just another attempt to get another Iron Man book on the stands, as it were. So that's issue 1, and it ran through. Continues into issue 8. Got classic Iron Man against some Serpent Squad type people. I seem to recall there being like some question in my mind about, well, wait, if it's taking place during this time frame, I don't think this guy was around, kind of thing. I think they played a little fast and loose with that here, but if I'm remembering that correctly. And then there's a couple more issues of that. There's issue 9. I could probably repackage that into 2 sets of 5 instead of 1 package of 8, and then 9 and 10. And we've got this Iron Man Legacy of Doom miniseries revisiting, also with Michael Ian Layton, revisiting that storyline where Iron Man and Dr. Doom got trapped in the past. And we have an homage to the cover of, 150? And this is a big boy book right now, I think, because with Robert Downey Jr. playing Dr. Doom in the upcoming movie, people are flocking to anything that has Iron Man and Dr. Doom at the same time. Issue 1 continues into issue 2. There. Through 4. Iron Man Rapture. Couldn't tell you what this was about. One of these random miniseries was about like some kind of AI getting out of control. I can't remember that. I think that was one of the earlier ones though. Issue 1 through issue 4. This is a Marvel Knights series, if that's of note to somebody. This Iron Man special, part 2 of 3. So this would have been crossing over with a couple of other series that would have been having specials, maybe Nova or Inhumans or something like that. Superior Spider-Man. Did 2 or 3 of those. Iron Man, The End. So Marvel did a lot of these The End things, just showing, okay, this is how everything ends for the character, but it's not really canon. They're not sticking to it. But whereas a lot of those were like long miniseries and things, like X-Men The End is like 3 different miniseries or something. They just kind of have this one shot here. Boom. Good night. Taking off my stuff. Going home. Thanks. Bye. Got Iron Man, The Iron Age. So there was we previously looked at a series just called Iron Age. This one has got the Iron Man on the front of the name, so it gets filed here. And it's kind of a past setting story. Busiek telling a story from the early days of Iron Man. All of his friends and associates here in issues 1 and 2. Iron Man, The Legend. Another, I don't know, there's several of these. The Legend, we saw Captain America, The Legend. There's a Thor, The Legend. I don't know what the purpose was. But there you go. Some Iron Man goodness there. One shot Iron Man Titanium. Iron Man fighting the Titanium Man, as he does. So Iron Man 2020. So back in the 80s, Marvel did a miniseries, Machine Man miniseries, and it was, it came out in like 82, something like that, and it was set in the year 2020. And I think the son of Tony Stark had became, in that, as part of that overall storyline, Arno Stark becomes Iron Man, and he's kind of a mean Iron Man. He's got the jagged edges on his armor and everything. So we get to the actual 2020, and things get, they try to pull all that stuff in to the present continuity somewhat. So this is all about, the other thing of note is that throughout Tony Stark's life, I think at some point his memories were restored from a backup, and at another point his body, his mind was put into a cloned body or something like that, or a fabricated body of some sort. And so he begins to, in the series, begins to somewhat feel for other artificial beings like Machine Man and things like that, who and so there's a little bit of a revolution going on. And this series involved lots of mechanical characters. The robotic Wolverine android, for example, things like that. But that series runs through issue 6. think this is actually just the 6 issues. The others, because of the way that they're named, will show up in various places. We got a Iron Man movie, Iron Man 2 tie-in. So this is Marvel Cinematic Universe continuity right there. Just getting into the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Who are they? What do they do? Also got another Iron Man 2. Maybe this is the one that gets into his public, everybody knowing he's Tony Stark. I don't know. Or maybe both of them do. I don't know. But Iron Man 2, public identity. But still, MCU continuity. Issues 1 through 3 there. Go to Iron Man 2.0, which is another, it's a War Machine, but instead of naming it War Machine, they for some reason called it Iron Man 2.0. I don't know why. But we've got Nick Spencer, Barry Kitson, we've got Salvador LaRocca doing the covers. So some more roadie stuff here. Issues 1 through 8. There we go with that. Like mini series at that time, there's a 0.1 issue. It's $1 cheaper. There's just kind of a sampler, something you could pick up for less than the normal cost. And then the series, have issue 9 right there. And that series ends with issue 12, and that is all for this box. Okay, so that was box 88. Next time we will do box 89. We will finish up with Iron Man. We'll get into some, we'll get into the J's, actually. We'll do some Jack of Hearts and some Jane Foster and some Jim and various things, and get into JLA. So thank you so much for being here. I hope you had a great time watching this, and I hope you have a great day.